All right, Nick and Andy, US men's national team time. They have two more games coming up in 2025 against Paraguay, against Uruguay. What do we make of this situation? What do we want to see? Nick, I'm going to come to you first. I mean, it's been an up and down year, I think we can say, under Pochettino. Tried a lot of players. Again, for this roster here, there's a lot of different kind of players than perhaps we were expecting. So what do you want to see over these two games, mate?
Fun. I want to keep having fun. I hate to make it about that, but like we're not just watching games against CONCACAF teams that we know very well. These are two teams that could have fun. Uruguay always to me is it's a litmus test, and it's a litmus test because take any 11 players in the Uruguay pool, and they're gonna play. They're gonna play football. They're gonna play physical. They're almost like a CONCACAF team on steroids. Right? Like Uruguay is the best Mexico team you've ever seen. It's the best USMNT team you've ever seen. Costa Rica, right? Like I love the idea of playing them. And I want to keep having fun. If they lose 2-1, but it's clear that they have a plan. You know, they got beaten by a Fede Valverde moment of magic. Okay, like that could happen at the World Cup, but don't just look like the second best team. And like the second best team, clearly. It's okay to look like the second best team in these situations. You know what I mean? Like, let's just keep enjoying this team for as long as possible.
Andy, in terms of the enjoyment factor, I think most USMNT fans will take a lot of enjoyment from seeing Gio Reyna back on this roster. That's probably the headline, right? We know some other big players are missing through injury, the likes of Pulisic, obviously Tim Weah, Weston McKennie's not involved. But Poch has seen a lot of his kind of key players now, Chris Richards, etc. He's not going to risk them, right, in these games right at the end of the year. But this is a big couple of games for Gio Reyna. Obviously, he's at Mönchengladbach now. We know his talent, we know his ability, but he's been really out of favor for the US men's national team in recent times. And feels to me like for him, this is a big moment that he has to take and has to show something if he wants to be on the World Cup roster next summer, because there's so many other players in that position that have stepped up in recent camps. Yeah. So this is a big moment for Gio.
Yeah, and with a handful of kind of, no Pulisic, no Weah, especially no McKennie in this squad either, there's a real, like, when was the last time the U.S. men's national team coach went to Gio Reyna and said, hey, I'm going to need you in this window. I'm going to need you in one of these games. I'm going to need you to put on a show to really lead this team. It's been a while because all the talk has been, well, he's coming back from injuries. He's not playing. Can he just kind of jumpstart his season here? They need something from him in this one. If they're going to generate chances, he's one of the main places that those are going to come from, I think, in this camp. And with Haji Wright and Ricardo Pepi scoring the way that they are for club, if you put chances up right now, there's a decent chance the U.S. men's national team might actually finish them. And that's not always been the case. And so it's a little bit interesting that this is the situation that we're in, 7-8 months out from the World Cup right now. It does feel like the center forward spot is fixed or not fixed, but settled, I guess. You've got 2 or 3 players that are pretty consistently, they're playing all the time for their clubs. They're scoring, they're putting in good performances. They just look really sharp and they look confident. Balogun being another one, just scored his first Champions League goal this week. And so, I am hopeful that we see something from Gio Reyna, but at this point, I don't think I'm expecting it. Am I alone in that?
No, I think it'd be a bonus, but I think no one's really, expectation levels are low. So the only way is up, and we know what he's capable of. So I think everyone's hopeful that, they can see a little bit of a spark and something click. Nick, Andy mentioned maybe the centre forward position is pretty much locked up in terms of options, and who we know is going to start or be the next man up off the bench. What positions are up for grabs still? Because there's a few to me. I mean, goalkeeper position, right, is still a big question mark. And then where else are we looking at in this squad and overall?
Yeah, I think that the fullback position is now really interesting because I think we all would have said it's Anthony Robinson and Serginho Dest, and let's see who's backing them up. but it hasn't quite gone that way. Robinson has had his injury problems. I think if he's healthy, it's still no question, but like right now, he's not here. Goalkeeper, we may have our answer because there's more guys here, but it's been Matt Freese. I think it's interesting that you have this back line that is not in a state of flux, but the guys here are still competing not just to be on the team, but they're competing to start. And everything in front of them, at least in this window, is guys, except for Balogun probably, is guys competing to get on the team. Because when McKennie is back or when Pulisic is back, Malik Tillman has been absolutely wonderful. When he's back, like those guys to me have already nailed down starting jobs for the most part. So it's interesting that at the back and maybe even at keeper, we have, hey, you want to get a starting spot, and everybody in front of him is like, hey, just to get on the plane, or well, the planes are going domestically, but whatever, just to get into the team, you got to perform.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they perform against these two teams, right, Andy? I mean, I think this will tell us a lot, even though it's a mixed USMNT squad, about where the level is at when they play against two teams who are going to be at the World Cup next summer. And again, like you said, 7-8 months out now, which is crazy to think. The draw's coming up in December. Soon we're going to know who the US are going to be facing, and they can start prepping for that. But it feels like a pretty big moment in terms of, seeing out the year and then setting the tone for next year, which is obviously going to be massive in terms of the prep and the build up. So really excited to see, because, Uruguay and Paraguay, they're going to make some changes as well. They're going to be experimenting now. They know they're in the World Cup. So I think it's, again, Nick used the term earlier, good litmus test to see where the US is at.
Yeah, there shouldn't be a single player in this squad that's going to play meaningful minutes in this window that really has an excuse to not, to not do their job, to not look like they're up to pace, to, they've all been in Pochettino's teams numbers of times since he's been the coach, and they've had numbers of opportunities. And so, you can say Pulisic not there, Weah not there, Tillman not there. And that certainly limits, the ceiling for this team, but you still want to see a functional squad. You still want to see a team that can go out there and hold their own against, like we said, two teams that are going to be at the World Cup. Because, I mean, how the World Cup is still it's a very situational thing. Well, who's healthy to be in the squad? Who's healthy during the tournament? Who's performing during the tournament? And just because you have everybody there, you're not guaranteed the absolute best performance. And so I would like to see someone step up and, somebody that's maybe on the periphery of a starting spot, maybe a Tanner Tessman, just have a really, really strong camp right now, because he's been fantastic for Lyon for about a calendar year now, and doesn't feel like he's had an opportunity to really show it for the national team. And so, there's a ton of little storylines, I think, in this window that should tell us a lot without, the result really mattering. It's more about the performance still at this point.
Yeah, it's true. Austin Trusty is another one I want to chuck out there as well, because I think centre-back, there might still be a spot open there, and that's going to be interesting to see how he is back in the squad. All right, you can watch both of these games, remember, in Spanish on Peacock and on Universe. So first up, Paraguay and Philadelphia, and then Uruguay in Tampa to close out 2025. So head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com. We'll keep you covered with the latest from these USMNT games and see how Mauricio Pochettino's side get on. Nick and Andy, thanks so much for joining me. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll speak to you all very soon. Cheers, guys.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host of NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long, and for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock.